Hey everybody, welcome back to another OPP. T, how you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Yeah, good. November almost done. Getting into December. Yeah, it's starting to rain a lot in Vancouver.
Yeah. No, I was like, oh my god, it's like almost holidays.
Yeah, already. Yeah. I don't know if people know, TJ and I, we play hockey every Friday. We got to talk about that last game. Or we were down 4-1, and we came out on top on that.
Yeah, a comeback. There's nothing like it. And I think we were celebrating like we had just won the Stanley Cup.
Exactly. Yeah. We won 7-6, and they know don't put the Rack brothers together.
Nope, pretty potent together, my man.
There you go. Yeah. Got a little bit of housekeeping. December 1st, SPAC pricing will go up. So if you don't have your ticket or you haven't signed up yet, do that ASAP. You got about 2 weeks for that. Attendance records so far, we're above where we were last year. So anticipating that we're going to have more attendance than last year. Last year was the highest ever. Should beat that again. Vendor booths, we have about 4 booths left. Anticipate to sell out before December as well. So things are looking good on that. Speakers all lined up. Everything's like good to go. So yeah, SPAC's gonna come quick. It's in like 60 days too.
Shit, that too. Holy. I know. Stoked already. Time for like another cycle, huh?
I know. Hopefully that Capture booth you guys have figured out. You don't like order it and have to put it together on the fly.
I hope not either, but we're gonna have like we're like on the merch and like everything and pushing it all, so it's coming quick.
Yeah, it is. Cool. All right, well, let's get to our guest today. Originally SPAC, School Photographers Annual Conference, or School Photographers and Sports Annual Conference. Originally was called School Photographers Association California. Our guest today is from California, and we got a little bonus guest that's coming with them today. Let's bring them both on. Hello, Alex, and hello, Nick.
Hello.
Legends.
Yeah. Well, one of them's a legend.
Only one, yeah.
Yeah. The other guy's incubating right now.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, Alex Shoob, thanks so much for coming on. I know you got like a pretty cool story, innovative as well. And we'd just love to hear about it. And maybe you can tell us, how did you get into this business?
Well, Shoob Photography is a family business, actually started by my grandfather in 1918 when he first came to the United States.
Wow.
So he came as a result of the World War I in Europe and so on. He felt that this was a place with more opportunities and a lot less death happening and so on.
Yeah.
So he came to California and worked in San Francisco for a couple of years, and then moved down to the Central Valley to actually Turlock and opened a studio in 1918. So we've been running continuously since that time. My dad and his brother Leo took it over in 45 after the Second World War, and that continued until I got involved. Let's see, what is it? Well, I didn't actually take over till about 76 or so. So I've been running Shoob Photography since 1976.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's, what is that?
50 years.
50 years or so. So, it's been a long time. Industry has changed a little bit since it started. I mean, when I started working in my dad's studio, we were still shooting on 5x7 sheet film. We had a very sophisticated camera that allowed you to take 2 pictures on a single sheet, so you got a little more efficient use of your time and film costs.
Yeah.
And my job was loading all those holders. So if we had to go out to a school, we would have cases and cases of 5x7 film holders and drag them out there, shoot the job, bring them back in, unload them, put them in the developer and so on and whatever. So those were the, shall we say, good old days. And then everything obviously went through enlargers, print by print, and in tray processing and so on. So that's where it all started and so on.
When did you guys get into school photography? I mean, it sounds like you guys are probably a lab first, and then like when did you get into schools?
No, actually, grandfather ran very much a general purpose portrait studio.
Okay.
I don't know when he did his first schools, but probably sometime in the 20s.
Wow.
I know that if I go over to some of the what we call West Side high schools, they still have senior composites on their walls going back into the 30s that my grandfather took. So I wasn't around at that point, but my thought is sometime in the 20s, he realized that there was a school market out there in terms of, in addition to general portraiture and so on.
Wow. So yeah, so like basically over 100 years in the school market.
Yes.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. After that, I mean, we were chatting before, we have a little bit of a connection. You came up into our area for a bit.
I was sort of at loose ends after college and so on. I'd gotten involved in my dad's studio and so on, but the political situation in the United States was not wonderful at that time. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like Canada might offer some opportunities. So I moved up to Canada and set up a processing lab there. That was the early days when processing labs were coming into existence. I mean, prior to that, all photographers did their own processing, black and white, manually, on sheet film and so on. There were new innovations like roll film that came into that picture late in the day. I remember we transitioned from sheets to first 90 millimeter rolls and then 70 millimeter roll film in that period and so on. But in any case, I ran a studio up there, and when I first moved up there, I needed a place to stay, and somehow I got connected with Gordon Kearns, who at that time owned Artona Studios.
Yeah.
So I rented a house from him. Wow. And stayed there for about 3 months until I got my feet wet and so on. And opened up a processing lab and so on. But lab was not particularly successful. I found that Vancouver was a very much smaller market than California. Mm-hmm. And the number of photographers available to service wasn't that large. And it didn't seem like it had a great future at that point. So I moved back to California and got back into my dad's business. And then about 76, he stepped away and I started running it there.
Yeah. Alex, you could have been our dad.
Well, I mean, how old's your dad at this point? How old's Sean these days?
Just turned 70.
70. Well, see, he's just a kid. I turned 80 this year.
Wow. Wow.
So
still sharp though.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, it's been a long journey. I mean, in the lab in Modesto, I mean, we started automating the black and white production with roll processing and things of that sort. And then we went to color. My dad was a bit of an innovator. Prior to what's known as Type C color, Kodak had something called dye transfer. I don't know if any of you either even heard of it, but essentially it involved separating the color negative into 4 originals and producing a full-size transfer of those originals, putting it in a series of chemicals, and then layering it color by color onto a substrate. That was the first color before there was color paper, when all the layers were already built into the paper and so on. And Kodak thought this was really hot stuff. And the reality was that it wasn't very practical at all. I mean, maybe if you were doing very, very high-end work, you could justify the expense, but for the volume work we were doing, wasn't really viable.
Is that where like dye sub came in then? Like dye sub?
Yep. Same
concept. Yeah.
Concepts. Dye sub now, which we see in the ID card printers or other systems, is all a one-step process. This one, you had to separate everything out into 3 layer or 4 layers, and then put them down and treat them put them in a tray, and then apply them to the substrate.
Wow. What year did you guys move over to color?
Probably around 75 or so.
Okay, so this is after you came back.
Yeah.
From Vancouver, probably one of the first things.
No, actually, we must no, because I built the first color processor prior to going to Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
So we built a color processor. I've always worried that I would probably die of cancer because the processor was a little crude. It used the old Kodak system where you had a paper leader that went through the machine, and you attached your roll of color paper and it dragged it through the machine, continued processing. At the end of the roll of paper, you had to catch it and put the new leader in again in order to fill the machine and continue to work.
Yeah.
If you missed that transition, you lost your leader, and then because the machine was so crude, you got to stick your arms into the chemicals up to the shoulder pit pretty much to feed it through again to be able to run the next batch. So, but I seem to have survived that chemical exposure. So,
yeah. How many times did you miss the leader?
A couple times a week at least. So, I mean, in later versions of that, we had a, what would you call it, a preload section where it gave you a big warning that, hey, I'm about to run out, and so on, and you could run like hell into the dark room and catch it and so on before it. I mean, it was a tremendous step forward when we finally got a Payco processor, which had belts that always were in the machine, plastic belts that just recirculated and so on.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And so you built that processor yourself?
Yeah. I mean, my dad's business was not super profitable. There were not millions of dollars available for new equipment and so on. And Kodak equipment, I mean, Kodak dominated the market at that point.
Yep.
And laying out $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 cash was not a possibility. But if you looked at the machine, you could see how it worked. And it wasn't rocket science. You didn't use stainless steel. We used plywood and fiberglass coating over the fire and made tags out of that. And obviously a motor is a motor and a whatever. And it all worked. And so on. The first one, in addition to being pretty crude in terms of the leader belt, it seemed to lack a function called a dryer. So when the paper came out, it rolled up wet, and then we would unwind it and hang it out between 2 step ladders to dry.
Wow.
And then we roll it back up and cut it. So it was a little shaky.
Yeah.
It worked, and I took that same technology up to Vancouver and used it there in the processing lab. By that time, I'd figured out how to build a dryer, and we actually didn't need the step ladders anymore.
There you go. You just throw like a hair dryer on the end of it.
You need more than a hair dryer. You need more than a hair dryer.
I think there was one dryer that set a building on fire, from what I remember hearing stories of my youth.
We had a number of problems. Well, one of which was the brilliant idea that it was so much easier to work with PVC pipe rather than copper or galvanized.
Yeah.
So I did that, and it worked for a while until on the hot water lines, it all came apart and flooded the building.
Oh man.
So anyway, I wasn't aware that you needed to use special pipe to deal with hot water.
Yeah.
So,
Did you name that processor? Did you ever come up with like cool names for these?
no,
No?
it was again. There was certainly never any thought at all in terms of building additional. I mean, it was so crude compared to what Kodak had on the market
Yeah.
that it was just a joke. But it did process paper and it did the job.
Yep.
I mean, I saw pictures in those days of the Life Touch plant, and they had side by side 30 Kodak processors with huge drums that did the drying and so on. In later days, they actually turned to microwaves for drying. But in any case, we made it do.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's what TJ and I kind of experienced, talking to a bunch of people on this podcast, is just the like innovation of there was nothing like you could do. You had to figure it out yourself, right? There was no other option.
Well, yeah, companies like Bremson and so on just went out and built their own equipment. Bremson built some of the first package printers, which, I mean, again, in the old days, you printed one print at a time. When you wanted to go from an 810 to a 5.7, you lowered the enlarger and changed the size and so on. Well, at some point, somebody figured out they could use lens clusters to do that.
Yep.
And Bremson came up with a package printer, so did Kodak, and so on. And by the time I got to, I think in the very early days, at some point about 67, 68, I figured out how to put lens clusters together and build a manual package printer. So it had series of lens clusters mounted on a slide, and you started with the far left one, you made your 8x10, and then you slid it over and you got your 2 5x7s, and you slid it over again and got your 4 3/5s, and you could print packages that way.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we've heard these names: Bremson, Lucht, Nord, like all these like names growing up.
It was, very exciting days. Nord was first. Luck followed after them, and built a faster, better printer than Nord, and so on. But we were always very, very envious of the few studios that we knew that, oh my God, they have their own Nord printer.
Yeah.
So that was quite an accomplishment in those days.
Yeah.
Great. Nick, I think that's like one of the things that bonds us. Hey, it's like these random machines and like fringe brands that I think populated our youth.
Oh, 100%. Like there's so many like just weird brands, and you're just like, oh yeah, well they used to make this one thing, it existed, and that's why everything's on an 8x10 sheet.
Yeah.
Like, because that's how big the lens was.
Interesting, when I was doing a little research for this, and I sorted out the first camera I bought.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Turns out it was a Linhof Technica, which is a German version of what was in the US market was a Speed Graphic. So this was a portable camera that you could put a 4x5 sheet of film in and so on. And when I looked into it last night, they apparently are still in business. And you can still buy a Linhof camera with a film back or with a digital back still.
No way.
So yeah, so somehow they've hung in for 75 years or so.
Wow. So after you built the processor, you had color film going. You built like a package printer. What was kind of like the next steps after that?
Well, we just started really growing the business. I mean, going back to like 78, I think I had maybe 13 schools.
Mm-hmm.
I was so broke I had to open a few prepay envelopes to buy gas to get home. And so on. But just kept building it up, and we brought in some commercial equipment. Eventually, we got a Payco processor, so I didn't have to deal with the leader situation.
Or
and
fires.
Bought a UNL package printer, probably since long deceased, but it was the third player in the market along with Nord and Lucht.
Yep.
And we were able to put one of those in. And that really allowed us, between the Payco and the UNL, we could do real volume. And we, well, yeah, it depends on what you call real volume, but we worked it up to about 100 schools or so.
I found the newspaper, the local news article. There you go. We can give you a quote. You want to take a guess? How many schools in 1985?
No, what's it say?
108.
Yep. That's
You're close. Yeah.
It was 108, and apparently we were doing a 9-day turnaround, photos to delivery at the school.
Hey, guys can't even hit that today.
Yeah. I'm like 5 schools. That's insane.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, we built the business up. We put in some commercial equipment. We did build a film processor sometime at that point, so we're able to process our 100-foot rolls of 35 millimeter film.
Yeah.
And so on. Went from early cameras to the Z2 at some point.
We know that one.
Again, that was one of the big step forwards and so on. So one of the problems we had in that we were doing a lot of high school business. High schools wanted the pictures done all in the same time frame very early in the year.
Yep.
And they wanted their ID cards back very quickly. Mm-hmm. And that was just a horrible bottleneck where you got this huge influx of volume, and then you were having to manually deal with it. I mean, you could print the student body cards off the roll of film, but they were not in any usable order. So then you had to laminate, cut, and then manually sort. So that was what I thought was very irritating and a limitation of growing the business. So that's when I thought there's got to be a better way to do this. And so it occurred to me that I didn't have to produce for this product large images. I just needed a 1-inch image for a student body card.
Yeah.
So I took a 4x5 Speed Graphic, put a sheet of color paper in a holder, and pointed it at a TV with a portrait image on it, and shot it. And lo and behold, it worked. You got an image, and it was, for a 1-inch print, it was more than adequate. So that was where we figured out that, whoa, there was no thought at all at that point, given the existing equipment, that you could actually do digital photography, but you could shoot on film, get an image, digital or analog, off the film, and then you could use a CRT tube to print it.
Wow. What year was this?
We investigated the storage situation. That's about the same time frame that the IBM XT came out with this amazing thing called a hard disk that held, I think, 10 megabytes. And we did the math and we figured out, all right, we'll fill this thing up in the first 7 or 8 days, and then what in the hell are we going to do? So we did some looking into it, and we discovered that Panasonic made recordable video discs that would hold 65,000 frames. They weren't cheap. They were about 20 grand a pop.
Wow.
But which was real money in those days.
That's for the recorder and the disc, not the disc.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So we bought the recorder and a couple players, and we put together a film editor. I mean, Lucht and Nord had already built film editors, and their goal was to punch the film so it could automatically go through a package printer.
Yeah.
So our thought was, well, yeah, we can do that, but we can put a 3-chip video camera above it. We can put a light source below it, and we can capture these images. So we could capture up to 65,000 images on a disk. I'm not quite sure what in the hell the mechanism was or what software we did. I think I may have had some help writing that, but we wrote some software that matched the kid's data record with the frame on the video disc.
Wow.
And so then we could take the video disc over and put it in a printer and print the ID cards in alphabetical order, ready to go out the door.
Wow.
So what we did is, I don't know if either of you have ever heard of a 5S printer.
Yeah, we had one. Yep.
Okay, all right. Well, that was the standard of the industry, the Kodak 5S.
Yep.
So we took the negative stage with the light source and so on, and ripped it out, and we put a Sony CRT tube down there, and we projected it up onto the paper, and lo and behold, we had ID cards.
Wow. Alex, what year was this that you were doing this?
It would have been about 83.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, it's hard for me to remember exactly.
To come up with that idea, like, what were you drinking?
I don't know. It just seemed sort of obvious that you could do this. And again, it started with that first attempt to get an image off a television screen with just a speed graphic, and it worked, and it went from there. With the ID cards, we had to use their contact box, so the ID card graphics were all printed in the contact box because you didn't have enough res to do that from the CR2. And then when it stepped over, it added the kid's picture. Oh, and there was a second CRT that had to put the kid's name. So actually, there were 2 CRTs in the printer, one for the image, one for the name. I mean, these were real cobbled together.
Yeah, but just the concept of it in like 1983 to like have images recorded like off the film and then putting it back with the CRT and then matching that data and then having another CRT that had their name on it, like, wow.
It was pretty cool. I mean, for the time, it was pretty sophisticated. I mean, we built one more machine for school composites because that was the other bottleneck in the lab that you were having to. Well, there were 2 different approaches. You could print, you could do what is called a contact roll and die cut all those and paste them up on into a composite and then shoot a copy negative and print that. Or you could actually die cut the film and paste it up on a mask, which is what we did.
Yeah.
And then make a contact print from that. But that was a horrible bottleneck. And particularly given, the film was not in perfect order and so on. So once we had the 5S printer working, we discovered I could buy an XY table from a company. So we bought an XY table and put a 70 millimeter film back on it from just one of the regular cameras. And we wrote some software that would pop up the image of kid 1 for the composite or the principal or whatever, take a picture of kid 1, step the magazine over for kid 2, take another picture, and you assembled mechanically a composite without any labor or anything. And you could develop that, and there it is.
Yeah, wow.
And that's we were able to do that. And anyway, I realized I didn't have the resources to really do much with this beyond my own business. And I did want to push it further. So I'm not quite sure how this happened, but I got in touch with LifeTouch, got in touch with Nord, and said, would you be interested in this? And LifeTouch was quite definitely intrigued. They flew some people out to visit. I suggested we, shall we say, work together on the technology for a year or so and see if this is mutually advantageous.
Yeah.
And they said, no, it's all or nothing. So we'll buy your business, we'll give you a nice salary, and you can stay here and keep working for us. Although it seemed to me that I would very quickly be getting a plane ticket to Minneapolis to work there, and I didn't really want to do that. So I went to Nord, and Nord said, oh yeah, we could build something here. This looks interesting. Nord was having trouble competing with Lucht, and they thought, well, this is something that we can do that they're not doing. And so I licensed the technology to Nord, and they built a whole series of equipment around it. A film editor, 2 different printers, and a compositor machine. And I was trying to remember who ended up buying it. Let me see where I have that.
But this would have been the 1990 Nord ad from Photo Marketing Association convention.
Okay, there it is. Yeah.
Future is now.
Yep.
Future is now.
Future is now.
Yeah, I mean, it was hot stuff. Nobody in the industry had anything. The very first digital printers, the Metrum line, if you remember them, was becoming available. This was pre-Niritsu, but they were painfully slow and not suited for this kind of volume and so on. But Nord manufactured this stuff, and the first big customer was Herff Jones. So Herff Jones put a full setup in their Ogden, Utah plant and ran it for a number of years. Advanced Photo Solutions put in just the capture side, the editor. District Photo put in a full setup for their plant. Halderman put in an editor.
Yep.
Orion put in an editor. House of Photography in Hawaii walked into the PMA show, looked at it, and wrote a $90,000 check as a deposit on the spot. You know,
Wow.
and they put in a full setup, including the compositor.
Wow.
I think Calvin put in a editor and a printer.
Oh, no way.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, that he put in the editor and the printer for his student body parts.
Wow.
And then somebody in Oklahoma put one in. It wasn't Candid Color, but I can't remember their name.
Was it Ruth Kelly?
No, it wasn't Kelly. It was somebody else. But they had a big operation there, and they put the editor in there. So,
did you go to install them, or at that point they were just licensing it from you, and then Nord was doing that?
You were writing all the software, right?
Well, I was writing all the software. I had to learn something antique called Turbo Pascal to do that. But no, I was flying out with them selling it and then installing it and so on, because it was a wonderful thought to be running all around the country thinking, oh, wow, you're bringing the future to the world.
Yeah.
Only to see that, oh, wait a second, what about the business back home? Who's minding the store?
Yeah.
And the situation, needless to say, was, well, nobody's minding the store. And the business itself really nosedived. I mean, I think we ended up back down at 30, 40, 50 schools or something like that, because I wasn't watching the ball at all.
Yeah, that's where you have Nick.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I was 7.
Didn't
at this
quite
point.
exist then, unfortunately.
So
So
rough.
Did you ever think maybe if you didn't license to Nord and you worked for LifeTouch that maybe you'd be the CEO of Shutterfly right now?
I was just intimidated by the thought of working in that big corporate environment and so on.
They're a beast.
Used to doing my own thing, making my own decisions. In retrospect, it probably would have been a good idea. Certainly, financially, it would have been much more successful. I mean, they offered me, I think, $100,000 a year in '79 or whatever, which was reasonable money in those days.
Yeah.
But again, I went my own way, and there it goes. So something else happened, and I'm having real trouble remembering which came first. I think it must have been the capture and printing side, but once we had that, and then Kodak got into the market, and Lucht and Hicks got in, where they put roll film adapters on the Kodak scanner that Kodak made.
3570.
Yeah, the 3570. That made it possible for virtually everybody to get digital images off their film.
Yeah. And
so then the next question is, well, how do you use this to market to schools to sell more schools? So I don't quite know how this happened, but I wrote a program to do that. And somehow I got hooked up with Chris Wonder and Interstate. Interstate at that point.
Yep.
And Chris flew out to California to look at this thing. And I think they looked at Chris Burton's version of the same thing,
which was folding
with mine for whatever reason.
Yep.
And they licensed it as school decks. And for a number of years, they would purchase 200, 300, 400 copies of school decks. I think I was selling it for a couple $100 each, and they would call me for an access code, and I would give them an access code, and then they could take it out to another school and so on.
Yeah. So is this pre SIS system, like pre-Aries, pre all of that kind of stuff, Dad?
Well, Aries existed, so did Power School and so on at that point, but
Okay.
neither program had any ability to display an image. So that obviously they figured that out eventually, and at that point there was no more market for software from photographers to do that job.
Wow. I thought you were going to say you invented Aries as well.
No, no, not at all. I mean, they had an established market. They were doing well, and the limitation was there were no pictures.
Yeah.
So for a time period, it was again a hot item in the market.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I guess, yeah. So future is now 1983. You're capturing film, but outputting digital. I mean, with variable data. And then when did you kind of go into like digital input with digital cameras? Were you ahead on that as well?
Well, we put in a Fuji S1 when it first came out, and then after that, a series of Kodak cameras until Kodak screwed up and their latest camera was a disaster when they switched to CMOS. And then we switched to Canon. Canon was a little shaky at first, but within the second generation, it was perfectly adequate. And obviously, at this point, it doesn't make any difference what you shoot on. They're all so good,
Yeah.
and so on. I mean, we stayed with Canon for quite a while. When we wanted to go mirrorless, we went to Sony, and there's just that's the camera's just not a limitation or a concern anymore.
Yeah.
In fact, what's interesting when we finally made the transition to digital press output and got rid of the Noritsus, the whole picture production problem went away. I have to say that you're responsible for part of that because Skylab, for the first time, made it possible for us to have, shall we say, known good images that could go straight to print. I mean, before we had, a row of a half dozen young people sitting in, Bridge and Photoshop screens, scanning all this stuff, trying to make sure that every image looked good.
Yeah.
Very expensive, very inconsistent, just stupid. But that's the best we could do. And Skylab changed all that. And that was just at that point, we had images that were consistently good that we could then send through a digital press. We made a earlier attempt to go to digital production, press production, pre-Skylab, and that didn't work. On a good day with good images, the pictures were wonderful. On a bad day with erratic images, you could get garbage.
Yeah.
And I spent every day tuning color profiles depending on the whim of the printer on a given morning and so on.
Yeah.
So that failed. We ended up having to buy a second Noritsu printer to keep up with the volume. But then we tried again a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, with a Ricoh printer and Skylab. And between the two, everything clicked. I mean, and now school picture production is, I have to say, almost an afterthought.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing 275 schools.
Wow.
And I've got one 20-year-old kid doing it all with one part-time helper. And I don't even think about it. It just happens.
Yeah.
It is just so wonderful. And
You,
again,
yeah, we definitely followed in your footsteps, though. I think Mike and I knew, like, okay, watch guys like you. How do they take technology? How do they collide them at the right time? How do we just make it work? Exactly what you said. And I think we've always kind of looked at you as like that first true inventor that's been in our industry and has continued to kind of light the path of just figure it out, make it work, cobble things together as discussed. You're going to have a couple of floods, a couple of fires, a Nick Shoob child laborer, but you're going to make it work though. So yeah, no, it's kind of like a collaboration of thoughts and entrepreneurial ideas and not really fitting into anyone else's box. So no, I think we definitely contribute a lot of the way that we think from people like you.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an exciting journey. What's interesting to me is that all of a sudden, after sort of 10, 15 years of just slowly growing the business, all of a sudden, it's for me gotten very, very exciting because we transitioned about 4 or 5 years ago. Nick, you might know more exactly when that was, to proof plans. I mean, it seems stupid that you would ask a parent to buy a picture that they hadn't seen with prepay, and how LifeTouch and others get away with that today, I don't know, but it works for them and it's very profitable, but it just seemed stupid. So when parents started calling and complaining and saying, well, can't I see my pictures on your website? We initially said, no, I'm awfully sorry, we can't do that. And then that just became obviously not the right answer. So we transitioned to proof and got rid of prepay, but then we found out that, oh shit, we're in a different world that we don't know anything about. I mean, for years at SPAC, Barksdale would come make presentations about how you do your prepay flyer and things like that. That all went away, but nobody's getting up there at SPAC or anywhere else and say, this is how you do a website. What's happened is that Dot Photo, Captura, and others have, just like the photo processing labs took away the processing from photographers, now all these e-commerce sites have taken out this whole sales side of the processing. And again, for those who are not interested in doing a website and whatever, that works. You pay 5%. You pay, you're paying a price for it, but it takes something off your back. And if all you want to do is shoot pictures, if that's what you really are most comfortable doing, or sell pictures, outlabbing or outsourcing the e-commerce side is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
We started building our website early on, and up until about a year ago, I was sort of stuck with it. That is to say, I had to pay people to write the code, and it didn't do what I wanted to do, but getting changes made, et cetera, was painful. But now that's all changed. And what's changed, needless to say, blinding revelation that I'm not the only one figured out, is that with AI, I now have control of that.
Yep.
So I can take my existing code base, load it into Claude Code, and say, change this. And boom, I get the code out. I can test it locally. I say, no, sorry, not quite what I wanted. Please do this. And it gets me another iteration. Sometimes it takes 3, 4 iterations, sometimes just one. But now there are no limitations. There are absolutely no limitations on what we could do other than our brains in terms of what will sell to mom.
Yeah.
What can we put on that website that mom will buy? And I just realized a few weeks ago that we can also use that same technology to work to build relationships with our families. So we have, 250,000 families records in our system and so on. We have minimal relationship. I mean, they place an order, we ship the pictures, that's the end of the story. We don't know who Johnny is. We don't have, I at this point, I couldn't tell you which families bought the most pictures, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm thinking is that we need to use that data, connect it up to customer service with maybe Amazon Connect. So when a customer emails or phones in, we immediately see, this is Mrs. Smith. She's ordered these pictures. She has these 3 kids, and she last ordered such and such. And all that data is there on the screen, and my people can talk to Mrs. Smith and build that relationship. So next year she buys the damn pictures again.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always told the photographers that every kid they shoot is a $300 or whatever dollar opportunity.
Yep.
But we've never had the tools to build that relationship and maintain the opportunity. So we need to make sure that what happens when you have a customer that orders kindergarten, first grade, skips second grade. Oh, wait a second, we got a problem here. So this data is all there, and with the right code, we can
Utilize it,
make some more money out of it.
Yep.
I mean, again, we're a small company, but if we were to pick up 10% in sales just by building these relationships in a better fashion, it would be a significant amount of money in my pocket.
Yeah, that's all profit.
That's what's exciting me right now. Is AI gives us the ability to bloody well do whatever we want.
I think like I can sense the excitement in this one. I think you're so right on point, and like in all the talks we've had, this is probably like the most Oracle moment of someone kind of seeing like this is happening now. This is what we can do with it, and this is where it's going to be. We were just hanging out with our pops, who's recovering from a little bit of surgery, and he asked me this question, and I was like, it could go any way, but I think you've kind of articulated it perfectly.
There's so many opportunities there. I mean, and I just discovered a couple of days ago that something called Figma Make came out. I don't know if you guys use Figma to do design your UI stuff. Well, now they have an AI version of that where you could just describe to Figma what you want on your screen, and it generates the code.
Literally voice to beautiful interface, and then like you
said, it's crazy. And again, that this stuff is so new. I mean,
it's just beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I told somebody the other day, Claude is only 3 years old. If you look at a child, what is a 3-year-old capable of doing? Or a 5-year-old in Nick's case, he has a 5-year-old daughter and so on. They're just children.
Yeah.
They have so much yet to learn about the world. Same applies to Claude. He's just a baby, just learning. Next year, it's going to be even more and more, and we can take advantage of that.
Oh, yeah. I think we're just kind of tiptoeing into like the exciting parts of what we're going to be able to do and whatever the industry is going to go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Alex, did TJ tell you he wrote Skylab in Turbo Pascal?
No way. No way.
I was grinning when you said it.
No, not
No.
possible. But that's an interesting story that you had the idea of what could be done and went out and find some people at the university that could help you do it, and you put together one hell of a platform that changed the way photographers work.
Just following in your footsteps.
Yeah.
So I mean, Sidelight, we tried to copy that, and we ended up with a program that did a somewhat reasonable extraction. But then when Evoto came through with all their features and gave us a price that was almost zero, we said, no, this is not worth it. This is something that I could imagine getting the extract right. I could imagine doing the color correction to some extent. The whole retouching side seemed very, very tricky. And if you wanted to do
Glasses glare.
resting glass glare, obviously, but no, the one thing that neither Skylab or Evoto have done is modification of the image. Now, again, we don't want, sure as hell don't want AI changing this kid's face or anything like that.
Yeah.
But in a traditional portrait environment, we all know that the photographer would adjust the lights based on, is this a fat face, is it a thin face, et cetera, that we would tailor the lighting to that subject's face. To my mind, there's no reason why AI couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And again, if that portrait looks just a little bit better to mom, maybe it pushes our sales up another 1 or 2 or 3%.
Yeah. Again, you being like seeing the foresight on these things, like now it's all about these generative imaging tools, and they're just starting to like really come to market. And I think what you're getting at is that we're going to be able to make some adjustments that aren't going to like really geometrically change the images, but are going to enhance it to give it almost like a tailored light that we can't really do at speed that maybe is going to entice some sales. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's another incredible idea. So I'm kind of penning down a lot of stuff here.
And the easy one is, we know when we send the images in, who's a teacher and who's not.
Yes.
Now
this has been my bugaboo for months.
a little morphine may be appropriate. I mean, teachers invariably a little overweight. Without changing their face dramatically, we should do everything that a high-end Photoshop retoucher would do to make that face more attractive. And those teachers see their face, their images come through, and they say, oh, wow, I don't look quite so bad as I thought I did. That's got to help. Teachers more encouraged about school photography may be a little bit more helpful.
Well said. Yeah, very interesting thought.
Yeah. Wow. AI sounds for Alex. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's where it's going, and that's what I'm excited about.
That's amazing. I again, like we're just opening up with like, holy, it's already December. I'm like, holy, it's already been an hour that we've been chatting with you. But it's blown by because you've got that ability to see into the future.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely naming the episode "Future Is Now."
Yeah,
nice.
Pulling it off that newspaper article or that flyer. Alex, one last question for you because we want to wrap it up because we've been with you for an hour.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first like SPAC conference you came to?
Vaguely. Calvin would certainly know better than I what it was. The only thing that I remember um, was I think it was in the Jade Palace or something, which was a little dumpy, and it was really small. I mean, the image that I have is couple dozen people in a room.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember like what year?
Calvin was there certainly. He would know more.
Yeah. But do you approximately know what year? Like, was this in the 80s or 90s?
I really don't. I mean, but I think I've been to virtually all of them and so on. So
yeah, we're always curious to hear when like guys first came to SPAC and kind of population. Like you said, it was in a small room, couple dozen people. I think it was the Imperial Palace, right?
Maybe that's what it was.
That's what it was. Yeah, we've heard about those days. Yeah.
So I mean, it was always good to see Gary Kranz there because he was doing all sorts of interesting things and so on.
Yeah.
In those days, Life Touch still showed up.
Yeah.
They were allowed to come in and so on. It's interesting to talk to them and so on.
Yeah. Well, TJ and I really appreciate it. I mean, thanks so much, Alex and Nick, for spending the hour with us. I feel, Nick, you and I have done nothing, man. Like, you know,
I know, doesn't it make our careers look like garbage?
Yeah, TJ took over. Yeah, Nick, it's your turn, man. Like, yeah, you got to step up your game.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh yeah, like I said, your pops has led the way though, led the charge, put a little bit of fire under all our asses. So no, nothing but respect for the big fella.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, thank you again, and look forward to seeing you both in January.
I'll be there.
See you boys soon.
There.
See you guys.
Thank you very much.